Alright, let me start over for the YouTube audience. So yeah, we're painting the Brom witch layer, but we are going, before we even start painting her, we are going to do some Brom analysis. Okay, so boom, switching over to the iPad. Okay, so Brom typically, if you're not familiar with his work, he does a lot of work for Magic the Gathering. He's done Diablo. He's done the Elrica Malnibide books. He's done a bunch of stuff. Right? Pretty prolific fantasy artist. And he's kind of known for his desaturated palette, right? So analyzing his color palette can be pretty hard. I think what's more important than his color palette, honestly, is the way he uses shapes, right? He's known for using a lot of black. I'm going to switch real quick so that you guys can't, so I don't accidentally pull up some things on the Google image search and accidentally show the horrendous nudity that we might see by looking at Braum artwork. But maybe you guys would know this piece, right? Come on, just show me the picture. Now, this is a pretty famous piece right here. You can again see like his use of black and turquoises. Let's see what else we got. Here's an Elric, right? Using a lot of black and white. It's more about silhouettes. Again, these large black shapes that create nice silhouettes. Typically does a lot of pale skin. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Right. Again, large black shapes, turquoises, desaturated grays, lots of tonal grays. His work on, I think this is Dark Sun, right? Maybe I'm right about that. But again, big shapes, lots of large black shapes. Interesting silhouettes, pale skin. It's kind of what he's known for. Okay. So if we take the art and we just remove all the color from it, right? Which there's not a whole lot. But if we remove the color from it, you can, and then let's draw on top. Right, let's find these shapes that we're looking for. Okay, so what kind of big shapes do we want to see? Well, we've got this, right? This large black silhouette here, right? This carries over into here, all across her headdress. Her face is kind of silhouetted inside of this shape, right? And this shape kind of continues here, and it sort of continues into the foreground. And we actually have that piece. That's the base. But this is sort of the what I'm looking for, right? Is it really separates her skin, and then the cape thing, wings, whatever you want to call it, are used to silhouette her from the background, and then this thing, her little loincloth, whatever, is used to separate, again, her from the background, right? So when we're going to approach painting her, we can't use... Let me turn this layer off. Hello. Gabby Joy Arita, hello. We can't just use the main shape, right? Or we can't just use black to shade her skin. Okay? Look at this kind of gray. This is about as dark as the shadows get on her right here, right? Where is that? It's somewhere. It's not quite in the middle, but it's not black either. It's a little under, like a mid-tone gray. But this goes like all the way to black, right? This is like a pure black. And then the whites, right? These whites are pretty limited, right? So if we went halfway in between these, where do we end up, right? If this is the whites we're dealing with, right? How do we get halfway? So we're about halfway in between the white and black on the shadows of the skin tone. Okay? So we have to go much darker. Now, what kind of color scheme, right, are we dealing with here? Can anybody pick out like specific colors in here? Probably there's one like pretty obvious one, and then I think there's some more subtle colors that are maybe a little harder to notice. Yeah, I'll give the chat a second to see if we can pick out some color, the color palette. Hi, Red Razor. So yeah, turquoise is definitely the obvious one, right? We've got a turquoisey kind of color. We're actually going to go more saturated because I'm going to show you on some paints here. Red? I don't see any red. Purple? Okay, yeah. Yeah, we've got some purple. This is hard to see, but these blacks, look, if I pick this black and I come in here, look where it is. It's almost magenta, right? So we've got this very dark purple. Purple magenta. Okay. What else? Yeah, no, we know grays, but what makes the grays? What else? What complements the purple of the wing things? So this you might say is pink, right? What's the complementary to turquoise? Anyone? Before I even color pick this. Let's just see, right? Where if we go across, yeah, we can come over here. You can grab this color, right? Okay. Orange. I haven't picked the background, but how close do you bet this is to this? Anybody want to take a shot? I bet if I color pick this. Oh, look at that. Let's see if this moves. Look at the little circle on the color on the wheel. Huh? See this thing right here that I'm wiggling around? Look at the gray background. Look at the orange I picked. And then the teal and the orange. So what's happening is we've got a complementary background, right? Complementary color scheme background. And then what would be the complementary color to the purple wings? Hello, Lapsus Mental. Lapsus Mental? Huh? Anybody? The complementary to this? That pale, yeah. So if we go straight across, and we end up with something like this, right? Any chance you think that light, this kind of color right here is going to be in that same region? It's not exact, but it's pretty dang close. So what do we have? Right? If these are our four colors, can anyone tell me what kind of complementary color scheme or what kind of color scheme this is? Anybody read my book? I did write a book. No, this is not CMYK. CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, black. Like, is it triadic? Is it complementary? What is it? Yep, so split complementary is different. Split complementary would be you choose one color. This would be split complementary. Oh no. Split complementary would be like this. I would take a color like this, and I would come across, and I would go like here, and I would go like here. That's a split complementary. Double tetradic, there you go. Tetradic or double split double complementary color scheme. You can just search up the art of Eric Schwensen. I don't remember all the online stores. Yeah, tetradic, quadratic, I guess, works, but it's the double split complementary, right? What happens is it forms a square. Okay, if we took the color wheel, right, and we went bop, 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 bop. But it's really more like this. Okay, so we make a square. And we're using one complementary on her, right, to separate the skin from the black, and a second complementary to create this warm-cold balance in the background, right? And this warm is more centralized around her, and then as we move away, right, so we get this loop of blue around the outside and this warmer tone in the middle, right? So almost like a vignette. But then we use the purple and the yellow, or this greenish, this lime greenish kind of color, to create I say lime green, but really it's like, you know, it's so desaturated, it's not really lime green. We create this kind of color in the to separate the black, right? The blacks. I'm doing air quotes right now. You can't see, but the black from the skin. Okay. And if I show you, even if I turn up the saturation, you can maybe start to see that a little better. TBL Hobbies, hello, thanks for the raid. All right. Okay, if I turn up the saturation, and this is me cranking the saturation on this all the way up, and it's really not that saturated, but you can start to see kind of the color palette show a little more. Right now you can really start to like pick up some of those super deep purples in here, right? So we're using this teal as an ambient color, and then we are using this purple and yellow as a light. The purple acts as a shadow, like a local shadow for the robes. And the yellow acts as a light on her skin. And then we pick up some of these more yellow, orange, some of these more orangish tones from the background. You start to pick up some of these more warm reds around in little spots of her skin tone. You can see like in her cheeks, and a little bit in her skin. You really subtly pick up some of those colors, right? Little splashes. Okay. Not this one. That's a split complementary. We're dealing with a tetratic. Okay, so this is a pretty common thing you can do, is you use one complementary color scheme to create the ambience, and you use another complementary color scheme. So we have the ambient color, the ambient complementary, and then we have the local complementary, right? So local referring to the color of her skin and whatnot, the actual colors of her skin and robe, and cloak, whatever, cape. I don't know what it is. Does that make sense? Is that clear to you guys? And now watch me turn off the colors. The look how gray it is. Right? So it's really gray. It looks like even more gray after you've been looking at the background, like the one with the colors cranked up for a while. Hi, Mudal. Cool. But the big thing is the value contrast, right? If we don't have color to play with, if we can't create a lot of contrast through color, what do we have to work with? We have to use value, right? So we have to create contrast through value, and that does not mean creating contrast on everything. It means creating value contrast between materials. Okay? Makes sense? Everyone is like, yeah, I get it. Now let's see if we can execute on it. Okay, so they sent me some colors. They sent me some of these guys. Right, purple and yellow and black and blue and all these other colors, and titanium white and turquoise blue and that. And then we'd basically need an orange, some kind of reddish tone, probably something like this to create an orange. And we can basically paint the whole figure in this. Now I don't need to like specifically stick to these paints, but we could easily mix this tone, and maybe not even this one, maybe it's actually probably closer to this one. This radiant turquoise instead of this turquoise blue. I don't know, I'd have to take them out. I haven't used them yet. I don't know which one's actually closer. Not that it matters that much because of how pale everything is. I think the green is actually slightly closer. The slightly more greenish one. But we can play with these new paints and see how they do. Okay, so we have to mix grays basically from all of these. And I'll tell you that these are pure pigments. So you see semi-transparent. They say on there opaque, semi-transparent, opaque, transparent. So depending on the paint, we're gonna have to mix either black or titanium white in it to get the coverage that we're looking for. I'm actually quite interested in this white. They're not as thick as some heavy bodies that I might be used to. I will say that I'm normally not a huge heavy body guy, and I want very little of this. I basically am not gonna. So the difference between these and Chimera is they're both pure pigments, but these are heavy bodies, so they're thicker, right? It's a different medium. They're both acrylics, but they're a different medium. Dom's Minis, thanks for the tier 1. And Karandash, thanks for following. How was prepping the model? It was okay. It wasn't bad, but it's, wasn't the best either. No offense. No offense to Mindworks, but, you're not quite Cyprian yet, you know what I'm saying? Not everybody can be Cyprian though, so, to be fair. All right, so what do we need? We need black. Well, I'm just going to make like a neutral gray with black and white to start. So we know we're going to have to do gray. But we also know that gray's got some tonality to it, right? So we have something like this, right? This neutral, we can mix this neutral gray up. I'm gonna grab just a little bit of the yellow. I don't want too much of this. Like that might have been too much. So let's grab a little more of the blue. Grab just a touch of the purple to desaturate the yellow. We're really looking for this like cool neutral gray, which is like the slightest feeling of turquoisey-ness to it, right? Okay, so we're just gonna determine shapes here, right? That means we're just gonna start laying a base coat down on all the skin. Now, some people worry about getting like brush strokes and stuff with the heavy bodies. As long as you kind of lay it down and let it dry and you don't overwork it too much, just like any paint, it's not something you have to be super concerned about. Hixie666 with the raid, hello, and Manco Miniatures with the Prime, thank you. Right, so I'm good, thank you. How are you? What were you doing? Okay, so just trying to block in all the skin. We want to create that really strong contrast between the skin. And this is going to be our darkest shadow on the skin, right? So I know that basically if I want to create that strong black and that strong black and yellowish contrast of the skin, that this is like basically as dark as I'll go. I might have to go slightly darker, but we'll see. Oh, nice. You've been working on the fighter. That was a fun project. I enjoyed painting that one. I'm not gonna worry about her little like jewels and things on her stomach. Just paint over them, and then I can always come back later and clean that stuff up. Okay, something like that. Las miniaturas, las figuras. Hi, Walter. By the way, if you're interested in this figure or any other figures from Brom, there's the link to the Kickstarter. It will go live remember the exact date. Beginning of June, something like that. Okay, so you could kind of see where we're going with this, that we're just using this to create separation between the two, right? We've got to push her skin way, 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 way more than this, but this is going to help her skin stand out against the this really dark background. Now, the problem is going to come up where we have to paint, there's a lot of detail in that cape. I'm going to just say cape. That we're going to have to figure out how to create some definition in there, right? Like there's a lot of little sculpted detail. So we're going to have to use like really subtle variations. In order to create some interest in those areas. Because unlike a painting where you can just do it pure black and it looks flat and your brain kind of fills in the detail, or the lack of detail, that is, we have a sculpt. And we have to create the detail, or we have sculpted detail that we have to figure out what we're going to do with. Makes sense. So that means whether it's some subtle variations of purple, work a little grays, adding bits of highlights here and there in order to create some definition. We will do that, but we will not push the light, nearly as much as the rest of the figure. What's my plan for the orange? We will probably use some of that orange in order to create the a bit of lights on like the metallics and things that are not included, and we might work a little bit more into her skin. But you are correct that I do not have a background. I might actually just for the photo itself, like create a background, but I don't want to permanently mount this figure to a backdrop. I think this figure would be okay on a backdrop because there's not like that much interesting going on her back. Right. What makes you go for a black, white, or zenithal undercoat? I asked because white zenithal seems to be the no-go-to for the pros. The pros in air quotes. So really, the only thing that matters for me is what's going to save time, right? Is it going to save time for me to basically like spray it white and then paint all the black back in, or is it just easier for me to just paint the white right on top of the black? This figure has a lot of black in it, so I'm not overly concerned. It's more just about whatever is more efficient to me. There's not a right and wrong way to prime a figure. Here you guys get to immediately see like the silhouette and everything, which I think is useful. Well, coverage seems to be pretty good on these, and it's pretty smooth. Dries pretty smooth. All right, let's switch to a smaller brush and paint some of the details of her face, or base coat her face, I mean. All right, so a lot of it's going to be about that separation, right? And I'm just searching for that gray tone that we talked about at the beginning. And then I can build up the light from here. Right, I'm not even worried about this going in her eyes. I'll have to repaint them anyways. But just knowing that this is like the dark shadow will determine how much more light I'll have to create on top. The Silver Shield and Choose Ponce and Cephalot. Hello. Welcome, welcome. I also find that these tend to dry a little darker than they look while they're wet. Okay, so she has some kind of cowl thing. That's separating her, going around her face. And here where I didn't get quite as much of this black, I'm just gonna throw some of this purple black in there to where the primer didn't quite fill in. One thing I'll say about this is they are slightly matte, which I like. They're not, a lot of times with artist heavy bodies, you end up getting very shiny heavy bodies. So they are slightly, they're not like super matte, but they are a little. Okay, so now what we've got to do I don't understand full white. It's weird. Which paints are these? These are the new Mindwork ones, the heavy body ones, and some of them are Brom specific ones. I'm sure they asked him what his like go-to colors are. So we needed to make this like neon green that we saw. So we can take and mix these two. Right. Something like that, but it was even more green than that. Or more yellow, I mean. Or something like this. And then hella white. Brom is an artist. His name is Gerald Brom. Okay, so now we can take and mix it with that color we had before, but this is still too saturated. So we need even more white to desaturate. We want just like the slightest amount of color in this. And then we can mix that together. Good evening. With our previous mixture. Yeah, Diablo, Magic the Gathering, Dark Sun, all the Elric books. He's done a few. Okay, so now I want to start to sketch in the light, right? So we're gonna basically think about the lights coming in like kind of, it's like almost right at her, but the artwork is more like angled. So from the front, it would be like kind of directly on her, but really she's more like 3/4 in the artwork. So it's going to appear like we're, painting it a bit to the side, but really we're focused more on these like front volumes. And I want to essentially establish like the light, right? So I'm going to have light and I'm going to have shadow. And then we can start to, blend these two together. But to begin, I just want essentially like this is where the light's coming from. This is the shadow side. Let the two be separated and then you can blend together. So that could mean like filling in like areas that you might think are shadowed. But those shadows, these are called halftones, by the way. These are anything that's in the like direct lighting. Okay, so from this direction, it looks like much of this side is in light when you hold it like this, that it looks like it goes all the way around, but really it's coming like directly from the front. Does this make sense while we're doing this? Right? We're trying to establish the direction of the light. There's not these like big deep shadows here. Okay. I'm actually probably going to have to glaze in some color in the... Some of these are maybe looking more blue and cool than I want. But we will see. And then something about her leg tends to, her leg actually starts to shadow pretty quick as you go down. It starts to turn very turquoise. As she like starts to pick up that atmospheric lighting. All right, we want to keep that light as it comes around the temple. Right, keep those shadows. She has very strong cheekbones. The light on her is actually, it is slightly from the right. Hi, Lucas. How are you? Okay. So most of the side of her face stays in shadow. Right. So now you can see, like, without even painting the arms, that we have the light coming in, right? And then that light silhouettes against the black, but the shadow side of the skin is still readable against the black. Now, the shadow side of the skin tends to turn slightly more brownish. It's almost like an olive kind of tone. So you can see I've gray. This is another gray, but it's it's a little different in tonality. She's a little more blue as you go down. Sculpting again? Nice. All right, so if we have to make an adjustment, that's fine. We can just make a quick adjustment. So this is why we sketch. One thing about painting his style, right, is the subtlety, just the level of subtlety in the tones. Like when you're working with this much gray, it can be very difficult to find that, like, exact tone. But understanding what makes up the color, right, will help you find that color way easier than trying to just, like, have the picture up. I mean, I have it up for reference to see, like, the lighting and shadows. But, and, like, I can see that one color, that this gray here is a little more warm than the gray that I have down here, right, where it starts to get more blue. But having this understanding what makes up the color, that I know that basically all I have is this, right? I mean, I essentially have the primaries here. The red is not exact, you know, in this case is functioning as a primary. Zachariah I am, and Lemon Luis. Hello, welcome. Understanding what makes up the color, and like, oh, okay, this gray is slightly less blue, right? Then I can easily just mix that color that I'm looking for, or make the small adjustment instead of like trying to color pick, right? Don't color pick images. It's fine for, like, you know, referencing, like, oh, okay, that is like a red, but like understanding what really makes up a color is much more important. And I have no idea if these are the exact colors he used for this piece, but that doesn't really matter. I don't know if I want to paint the hands right now. I'll probably save the hands. Just because they're so detailed. They're very tiny. I just want to get the main light sketched in. Okay, this light comes down quite far. See, Dom? Right, so the light kind of comes in this way. We get a small shadow under her arm. All right, something like that. Any miniature? Well, I'll tell you, the Art of series is great, and Roman Lafont, Sam Lenz, and Joshua Lai are getting ready to release. Their set will go on Kickstarter soon. You also have Banshees, A Colorful Mind. I believe it's on my bookshelf behind me somewhere. It's definitely back there. It's laying down right now. At this point in your career, in my opinion, top 5 in the world, would you ever accept an army commission? No. When I started as a professional, when I decided to go professional, I told myself I wouldn't do army commissions. Like, I was already, even when I started, said I wouldn't do army commissions. Like a whole army? No. Maybe if someone paid me enough, I'd consider doing like a kill team for them. But it would be a really expensive kill team. Monument, hello. Hello, hello. How you doing? Welcome in, guys. We are painting some Brom from the new Mindwork Kickstarter. If you want to check it out, there's the link. How you doing, Jason? We're just doing some really early stages sketching, just trying to get some volumes rendered, understand. Well, we did a lot of, at the beginning, we did a lot of analysis of like the actual painting. And now we're going in and just getting an initial sketch down, just trying to establish some of my values. So you can see that this is like my second light, that some of these smaller volumes that I completely covered at the beginning, or when I did this first light, like they went away. Now I can start to bring them back with this second light, and they start to, you know, return, and I can create some of the smaller definition of some of these more subtle volumes, like the rib cage and abdominals and things. High game delay. Thanks. Have a good one. You're welcome. I'm glad that video popped off, man. I need to just put painting space. I just need to put Space Marines in the title of every video. These are the colors, yeah. Lucas, they're all right. I mean, I'm not a big heavy body guy in general. I would say they work fine. They're pretty smooth. I like the flow of a more fluid acrylic a little better. But I think they're okay. Like I said, I'm not trying to downplay them by any means. This is entirely my personal taste of, I'm not a big heavy body guy. If you asked someone like Alfonso or Matt DiPietro, who paint with a lot of heavy bodies, they might tell you something completely different. They might love them. For me, they're better than like a Liquitex. They're slightly more fluid. They're probably pretty close to the scale color. I feel like they're slightly more fluid than the scale. The scale artist, I should say. Maybe just a little bit more fluid than the scale artist. I think if you like those, you'll definitely like these. But those aren't my thing either. Just a picky guy. I like a fluid acrylic. Longer working time? Not necessarily. I wouldn't say there are any particular longer working time. Now, the titanium white's pretty nice. I'm really curious, actually. I don't want to paint. I don't want to do it on her. Let me just see something. This is kind of a test model I have over here. I want to see just how white this titanium white is. Like a good titanium white can cover pretty easily. And it'll turn really white. And then I can kind of like blend it out. Put a little blob on him. So some people like heavy bodies because you can do this, right? This is like not really my style of painting, where they kind of like just sort of like mash a blob of paint on there and then they feather it out. It's not really my jam. Yes, Milovich, there is a difference. Yeah, there's a difference between heavy bodies when you thin them and regular paints, because the binder. Some heavy bodies will tend to break easier once you thin them. So that's pretty white. And still not dry. Does take a while. This is the Atom white, which is got a bit of zinc, is more of like a zinc white. You can see this, the heavy body's still not dry. It's still moving around. It's also quite humid today here, which is causing the paint to dry a little slower. But I mean, coverage seems pretty good. Zinc does not have the same like coverage that titanium white does. That's the biggest thing. Like titanium white is supposed to be a more vibrant white than zinc. Zinc is like a little more transparent. Like all these layers I'm doing right now are titanium. Dragitty Dynamite, hello. And yeah, dude, I'm not even gonna try. Kanu, hello. And Nyx, I'm just gonna say Nyx, hello. Hi. Okay. Yeah. So anyways. I need to adjust her. This is bending. Get her stuck in. Hello from South Australia. Well, hi, Carvark. See you later, Lucas. Good night. So we can do the same thing with the Atom white, which results in like a bit more fluid of a paint. Right. I feel like I just have a little more control with a more fluid acrylic as opposed to a heavy body. But that's just what I'm used to working with, you know? It's what I like. Some people like working with oils. You know, those people are weirdos, but that's fine. That was a shot at Lucas right after he left to go to bed. But for real now, I think it's really a matter of personal taste. And maybe if I used them a lot, I'd come to like them a lot more. I'll tell you where I do like them is base painting, where you can just like, if I want to just kind of like mash paint around, then I can get down with a heavy body. Okay, so we have to push this light a lot. Right, we really want to separate these two. If we're gonna make that not really grayish shadow, like that not very dark shadow on her skin look like a shadow, we've got to push the light pretty far. But you can see we start to get some of the shape. Now I think this actually comes over a little bit more. Okay. We're going to start to soften some of these edges between the two, blending the light into the shadows. right? It's not a transition like all the way across her skin. It's we're changing volumes here, right? The plane shifts from the front of her stomach to the side, right? So it's like the light's coming from this direction. And then as that plane shifts, we get a pretty short little gradient there. Right, so I don't want like one big gradient all the way across the front of her. The front is like in light, the side is in shadow. Yeah, the light is coming like this, right? It's like here. I mean, we're basing this off the artwork, so it might not be one-to-one with the artwork. So we'll have to make adjustments. And when I say it's coming from the front, technically it's coming, the whole figure is like kind of is more at like a 3/4 view, right? Like if you were to, this is how the artwork has her, like this. And really it's kind of like a low angle like this. Right, she's like standing on top of her little rock thing, her little castle, whatever thing. And the light kind of comes from the front. The light really starts to push in just a few of these areas. We have to clean some of this stuff up, but get a few little marks just to establish where those brightest highlights are going to go. I mean, we have a lot of blending to do. This is literally just like we're just sketching the volumes, right? We want to establish the value, the color, and kind of the lighting direction, and get an idea of like what the shape is. Good night, Manco. It's a cool figure. It's sculpted by Layla Kalali. Monte Sansavino Platinum winner. Okay. So we can take a little of the blue. We don't want too much. We don't want to go crazy. So we'll take the mid-tone we used before, a little bit of the light. We can mix some of this with the white. We'll start to get more into these colors. Now, honestly, this would probably just be easier. I'm just going to sketch it real quick, but this would probably be easier to just do with the airbrush later. Is like add in this kind of teal from below. But I want you to just kind of see what it looks like. And she has a much stronger bluish tone as we move down. Okay. So I'm going to use this just to hold her so I don't sweat. Sweaty hands. I think we're going to take a quick break also. But anyways, you can see this is kind of like the idea of the sketch, right? Is to, so what we've done, right, is in the artwork, all of this is like really black, right? Now this stuff's going to need some definition also, all these black elements, but it makes her silhouette stand out really strong, especially if we put it against like this bluish background, right? And I'm actually just gonna take her off this because it's heavy and I don't need it to, I'm gonna have to hold her like by the head anyway. So I can paint the face. Okay. When did I start mini painting? I've been painting figures for pretty much non-stop for like 15 years. Hi, Waxy Sandwich. I'm going to zoom in so I can see some of the more subtle facial volumes. What's the first mini I ever painted? First miniature I ever painted was a Death Guard model? It was some Death Guard figure. A Plague Marine, I think, was the first miniature. I had painted models and stuff before that, though, like Gundams and things. I mean, I didn't start the hobby with Warhammer. I started with Gundams. And I started with car models before that. But in terms of like minis, yes, it was Gundam. Or it was Warhammer. But in terms of just scale models, then no. Technically not. Question, you started painting figures when you were under 7. Your late 20s, took a break for around 10 years and are not picking up the brush again. Where would you start? You just start painting stuff you like, man. There's no right and wrong way to pick up painting figures again. You just go for it, dude. Do you still have your first ever painted? I have the Gundams. I don't have the Plague Marine. I sold that army. I do have some of my old Warhammer figures though, like soon after that. But no, I don't have the exact Plague Marine that I painted. I have my very early, my Salamanders, which is the army I played after Death Guard. All right, so here's where we're gonna have to start introducing like some subtle other tones. So we can start to play with little bits of red and things in her skin. She's quite creepy. She doesn't have eyebrows or anything. Car models left are all gone. Nah, I don't have any of the old car models. They weren't good or anything. Most of them had glue all over the dang place and they were a mess. But yeah, if you're looking to get back into it, man, the only way to get back into it is just do some painting. You know? You just pick up the brush and start going. It's bad for my numbers, but the best way to, you know, go for it is to actually, you know, not watch as many videos and actually do some painting. Any displays I particularly liked from MFCA? I would say I really liked Jim Rice's Patrick Jones display. I liked Rhett's Trolls. They were very cool. He goes by Saint Toad on Instagram if you're interested. Do I do any 2D art? Yes, occasionally. I've talked about this before, but I wanted to be a comic book artist when I was young. When I was a wee lad, from historicals, I'm trying to think. Mike's was, I don't know, it was all right. It was kind of, how do I put this politely? I find a lot of the historicals all kind of look the same. Like everybody sort of follows the same style. Calvin Tan's was very impressive. His display was super, super cool. He's a beast, and I think he had a very interesting display. He has a much different way of painting. I mean, not too different, but like, yeah, it's enough. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that any of the historicals are bad. Like, they're well painted. They just kind of all do the same thing. They've got a style that they've like done and done and done and done, and all of them sort of follow the same style. It's just like the heavy metal style for Warhammer. Like, you know? It doesn't do anything for me. Like, yeah, you did that style really well. Okay. But if you think I can distinguish between two different people's heavy metal style, like, nah, impossible. It's the same. And it's intentional on top of that. Like, that's kind of the thing, right? They're a studio, they're trying to paint the same so that they have a consistent visual language, you know, across all of the box arts. And there is nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't particularly interest me. Christos' scene was very impressive with all the cavalry guys, yeah. More from a sculpting side than I think a painting side, just how, you know, just how many dudes it was. It was a lot of dudes. No, Metalovich, I know that's not true. They paint. They don't paint like together. They get assigned like, all right, you're gonna paint this guy. You're gonna paint these guys, and they tend to work on like their project. They're not sharing projects. I know some of them dudes, so I know kind of how they work. All right. Let's go a little. Let's get focused. Okay, so one of the things I'm seeing here is that because she has no eyebrows, we have to kind of round over this brow shape a little bit. I mean, yes, there is some shifts from the heavy metal style years ago to what they're doing now. Like, it's not like they don't change at all. But what I'm saying is people that paint in that style, like if you, it doesn't excite me. Like, you're not doing anything. Hello, Dragoon C7 and Kasims. Sorry if I missed you. Maybe you were here while I was outside. Are the days of winning demons with Gareth Nichols style quality gone for now? I don't know. I have no idea, man. I couldn't tell you. You know, they pick from one thing to the next, right? Like, if people actually knew how to, like, guaranteed how to win a Slayer sword, you know, you'd have the same guy winning every year, but that doesn't happen. I mean, you have some guys that continuously do well. And I honestly think like any style can do well. But I don't think there's a such thing as a winning formula. She's very ghostly. Sure thing, Richard. I definitely believe you on that one. 100%, man. You got this.
Yeah, you gonna win. Gonna just sweep Nova also. I like the confidence. Now let's see the practice to back it up. Well, I hate to spoil it for you, but step number 1 to winning a painting competition is finishing your entries. I know that's asking a lot, but you know, that's part of it. Brutal burrito, yeah, you gotta, I know, right? It's crazy. You gotta paint the back of your models. Who sculpted this model? Layla Kalali. Miss Layla. All right, I'm gonna grab just an ivory because that's essentially what this goes up to. I don't know. They won't announce the 2028 World Model Expo until after the next one. They typically announce where it's going to be at the World Model Expo. Ugh. It's all particly. Come on. Get it into a nice glaze for me. There we go. So we're just really trying to push the highlights here. I mean, these are like the final lights on her. As you can go full spooky face. Jonas, I have no idea, bud. They don't tell me those things. I'll just paint the figure. I'm just here to make it look good. I don't know about pricing. I don't know about expected delivery, any of that stuff. That is not my area. Do I have any other hobbies? I am a sometime hobbyist woodworker. I occasionally play Kingdom Death and Kill Team. And that's about it. I spend most of my time painting. Occasionally I will play a video game if it's one I'm like really excited about. Such as the upcoming expansion to Elden Ring. Oh, Elden Ring. The snow mountain? You mean the mountaintop of the giants? Oh, Elden Ring. Foul tarnished. Playing at a god. Game kicks ass, dude. Alright, so we need to get her like lower eyelids more gray. What kill teams do I have? I have Intercession. And I am currently working on Scouts. You guys want to see the heavy bolter guy? Yes, I've played Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 1 is my favorite game ever made. So, here's Heavy Bolter Man. He is in progress. I still have to do some more work on the metallics. And finish some other stuff. And that's his head. That's the head for the Heavy Bolter guy. He's like, ah, fire my gun. And then I gotta paint the shoulder pads. You guys want to guess what chapter he is? You'll never guess. No one will guess what chapter this dude is. I guarantee it. Oh, yeah, good guess. Wow, Ultramarines. Nice. Yep, you got it. First try. The Harkonnen. Yeah, he's Harkonnen family. That would be incorrect, Sebastian, because they're Death Watch, so they're from every chapter. So not the ones I painted on my other ones. Yo, did you just say John Irenicus is a better villain than Saravok? Carvok, are you trying to get banned right now, dude? Am I gonna have to time you out? That is the hottest hot take I've ever heard. I would go literally 1, 2, then 3. This man really came in here with the John Irenicus better than Sarevok. We'll be thinking about that for days. Technically 6 if you had Tales of the Sword Coast. 6 CDs. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't get him back for Baldur's Gate 3. Like, spoilers. I mean, dude still does voice acting. He does the twins, whatever their names are, on Invincible. Muller twins. So it's not like he's not around. I will be the last, and you will go first. Step aside, old man. What does he say? Perceptive for an old man. That's it. Game is so good, dude. That's if you resist, it shall be a waste of your life. Sarevok's the coolest. Oh, she's like, I will say I did really like Ketherick Thorn in Baldur's Gate 3. Ketherick is a badass. He's a super cool villain. The other two, not so much. Have you watched the new D? I did watch it. It was pretty good. Wasn't bad. There was some cool scenes. Some stuff that I thought worked really well. Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil anything. This is totally spoiler free territory on Baldur's Gate 3, but the game does feel like it falls off a bit after chapter 2. Just doesn't hit as hard. I have a few like fundamental problems with the game also. From a few gameplay standpoints. Thanks. She's got crazy eyes. We've got to give her the white. She's got like white glowing eyes. They're not even like glowing. They're just like white dots in the middle of these black fields. Raw. Now she's looking kind of crazy evil. See a game delay. Having finished 4 playthroughs of BG3, Act 3 is definitely a change of pace compared to the first 2, but holy smokes, there's so much content. Depends on how much you did or didn't do in the first 2 acts, though. Yeah, I mean, my biggest problem, it's not the amount of content in Act 3, I'll say. It's the pacing, right? In Act 2... Act 1 is like you do all this stuff, right? It really feels like about exploration, meeting these characters, getting to know them, doing the Druid's Grove quest. And then Act 2 is like all about Ketheric and doing that whole thing and learning what happened with the whatever, the curse, the shadow curse. And then Act 3 just kind of goes like, all right, just hit the brakes real quick and just like explore the city, man. It's like there's nothing happening. Like, do what you want, have fun. Ignore the giant earthquakes in the ground. Okay, her face is starting to come together. There's still a little work to do, but I think those are some things that I can do off camera. It gives you a pretty good idea what we're working with here. Got a little bit of blending to do on her forehead up here. This is a little bit of a mess. Need to round this off a little bit. Clean up her lips and her teeth a little bit, but should give you a pretty good idea of what her face will look like. And then we have to blend all the other skin, but so you can really start to see like the outline now, the black and everything. So what we're going to do real quick before we call it, I'm going to take and just make a a grayish purple here. Right? And I'm not trying to be precise. I just want to start to like get a sensation of what the feathers and stuff will look like. This will have to get hit with a wash to make sure everything is nice and black in between. So even though this is pretty desaturated, you can really start to like pick up on the purple, right? It looks super gray on the palette. But when we put it on the model, it starts to look very purple. She definitely has a bit of a Maleficent vibe, huh? So just to give a sense. Yeah, dude, use a wash? What's wrong with a wash? If I want to darken the recesses of all this black, seems like a pretty good way to do that instead of trying to jam my brush down in there. That's maybe a little too yellow purple, so we can mix a little bit of the yellow in there. Pull that off a little bit. Gray it out. So I'm not trying super hard to be, just want to do like a quick 5-minute. See, that might be too light. So the goal here, the trick, like we talked about, if you were here at the very beginning, right? Everything, this piece is going to be very much about value control. Okay, so creating definition through value contrast. And if that purple, right, is too bright, then it's not doing the thing that we want it to do. We want to keep it separate. The whole cloak is, I mean, there's like feather details in here. I don't really know what the cloak is. Magic, it's weird. It's weirdness. That's what it is. All right, so if we have to tone it back, we can. We want just enough. Right, we want just enough to create definition of the feathers, but not so much that we draw attention away from the silhouette. And she's got some very dark reddish. There's some very subtle color tones like in the shadows. Okay. So. Hello, Rykos G. Hi, welcome. So much of this now becomes about just blending. Huh? Oh, what's your most favorite types of models to paint? This is my favorite scale to paint. Types of models, like subject matter. I don't know. I don't have a particular favorite. I enjoy the challenge of different types of figures, you know? Different subject matter, different styles. You know, I find these like, call this a master study on Brom. I find all of these things very interesting. But, you know, every figure presents a different challenge. I ain't talking about it, Richard. Don't worry about what historicals I'm going to paint. Don't you worry about that. It dang sure ain't going to involve counting rivets, I'll tell you that much. You'll never catch me checking to make sure the buttons are correct on suits or anything like that. That ain't happening. All right, so this is interesting. There's a nice cast shadow there, which means that my light, if that's my shadow, my light needs to come up way more in the armpit here to be able to see that cast shadow. This light really needs to push towards the center. He has a much stronger light source in this painting. In the even on the arms tend to darken out as they get towards the sides or out towards the hands. So we have to push the light quite a bit in the shoulders. I could do a historical box art though. Like if it was something cool and like not I don't want to do like a World War One or a World War Two figure. That doesn't really interest me. But like I think I could be down to paint like a samurai or something. I think that could be kind of fun. I could do like a... No. I don't want to do any celebrity likenesses. Also, I think the celebrity likeness thing on historical figures is weird because then it's not really... You're not really painting the historical figure, you're painting the character that he portrayed in a television show or movie, right? You're painting a movie character. I mean, it's like a historical setting for the character, but it's not, you're not really painting the character itself, if that makes sense. You're painting a dude playing another dude. Viking figures don't particularly interest me either, because actual Vikings clothing is pretty boring. Nice tunic, bro. Nice dress, bro. It's a tunic. Romans could be interesting. Some of the dudes with the big banners and stuff are kind of neat. Greek I could definitely do. Like some gladiators. Some gladiators. Yeah, I could definitely see doing some Greek figures. When's the last time I thought about the Roman Empire? I guess right now. When somebody brought up Roman figures. Layla did her stomach a little different, so we have to kind of improvise. Can't follow the painting exactly here. No, I wouldn't want to do a 75 millimeter Emperor. That's too much NMM gold. And also his design is a little too gaudy. It's a little too much. If I was going to do a 75 millimeter figure of all non-metallic, I'd rather do a Grey Knight. Yeah, I could do Western. Cowboys are cool. Do a cool cowboy scene. All right, I think we're going to stop here for tonight. I think this is a good starting point on the skin, just to give an idea of like how to create, you know, that separation between the two. Notice that these feathers are still nice and dark, which really creates a strong contrast between the skin and the feathers. Even the shadow in here, right? You can pick up this cast shadow within, and still the black feathers are clearly readable. Yeah. And we kind of learned about color palettes and how to analyze the color palette. So